Hello, and welcome to The Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein. Thank you for joining me again for February 24th reading. I'm looking forward to this one. This has been just a great series over the last week or so about truth and where we make decisions from and why it's important to take a look at these things and how we should pursue. It really has been great. And it's shown me some work I need to do personally, and I hope it's been eye-opening for some people that have been listening to it too. So grateful for the opportunity to be reading these. So this will be fresh to you and fresh to me, of course. That means they'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading, because I will be reading it for the first time on this podcast. So it's always a journey. Sometimes it's something I've heard before or something similar. Sometimes it's a new perspective. Sometimes it's got words I can't even pronounce or I've got to look up. It's definitely been an interesting journey these first 2 months of doing this. So I'm excited about it to keep on going though. So here we go. This is James Allen's Daily Meditation for February 24th. All pain and sorrow is spiritual starvation. And aspiration is the cry for food. Man's essential being is inward, invisible, spiritual, and as such it derives its life, its strength from within, not from without. Outward things are channels through which its energies are expanded, but for renewal it must fall back on inward silence. In so far as man seeks to drown this silence in the noisy pleasures of the senses, and endeavors to live in the conflicts of outward things, just so much does he reap the experiences of pain and sorrow, which, becoming at last intolerable, drive him back to the feet of the inward Comforter, to the shrine of the peaceful solitude within. It is in solitude only that a man can be truly revealed to himself. Man, I just love the way he words things, and he builds up to his point, or he backs up his point. He's very, most of the time, concise with how he wants something to be said. He doesn't really mince words that much. It's direct, and I can appreciate that, because if it's not, I can get lost in it, and I can twist things, distort things. It's very easy for me to make something read the way I want it to read. So the more concise and direct things are, like these readings and meditations are, the more honestly I look at them, and the more truth I can pull from them. So this one grabs your attention right away with all pain and sorrow is spiritual starvation, and aspiration is the cry for food, right? And just that comparison to starvation for our spiritual soul, I think, is a very important, or very appropriate way to phrase this. It's a very appropriate way to present what he's talking about here. So, and it grabs your attention, that's for sure, because to give some understanding as to where the pain and sorrow originates from can give us some hope that we can get through it. You can't, what do they say? It's you can't get to where you're going unless you know where you're starting. You gotta figure out where you are first before you can go ahead and take a direction towards the goal you want. And you also have to decide on a goal too, for that matter. But I agree with that. All pain and sorrow is spiritual starvation, and the aspiration is a cry for food. the misery. Pain and sorrow is us working towards our own selfish ends and selfish endeavors, and the aspiration is the cry for food. The misery we get into is it's our soul and our spirit, our inner self saying you need to take care of something. You need to take a look at this. He goes on to say, man's essential being is inward, invisible, spiritual. And as such, it derives its life, its strength from within, not from without. And this is a concept that I believe is lost a lot of times today. I've been victim to it, the materialistic mindset and the materialistic pursuits of life, right? When in reality, there's nothing external to me that will make me happy. There's nothing that will bring me joy to the extent I would be able to grasp it when I have done the inside or the interior work. Who we truly are resides inside of us, but so many of us define ourselves by what we have externally. And that's a hard place to be, believe it or not. That's a fear-based place to be, because if we're defined by what's external to us, we can lose ourselves. Things can be taken away from us. Those are little pieces of us. That was hard lessons learned for me. And this can be material things with people even too. We can define ourselves by who we associate with and how we are associated with them. Like the terminology we use. I'm the brother of. I am the boyfriend of. I am husband of. When we define ourselves by these terms, we give ownership to the term rather than to who we are. Man's essential being is inward, invisible, spiritual, and as such it derives its life, its strength, from within, not from without. We really have to take a look at the interior work that we need to do here. Outward things are channels through which its energies are expended. But for renewal, it must fall back on the inward silence, insofar as man seeks to drown this silence with noisy pleasures of the senses and endeavors to live in the conflicts of outward things. Just so much does he reap the experiences of pain and sorrow. And this is just going on about the outward things are channels through which its energies are expended. We engage in these things, right? So we interact with life, our physical bodies, our minds, our spiritual selves. We engage with the physical world and these outward things, people, places, things. And we expend our own personal energy through them. And I'm not talking about just the energy we get from sleep or the energy we get from eating. He says it here. But for renewal, it must fall back on the inward silence. It took me a long time, and I still don't always remember it, to be honest with you, to understand the benefit of solitude. Being with yourself, resting, being quiet, listening. Being your own company. There's it goes hand in hand with meditation a lot of times for me, and some say that being in solitude is a form of meditation. Certainly, usually a form of contemplation, and sometimes you don't even realize it, but it's rejuvenating after a while. Sometimes I still get caught up in it, but I will give of myself so much to these things outside of me that I don't take time for myself. And I don't mean necessarily going and getting a haircut or going to get a back massage or going and doing these going to the gym, going to these the self-care places. That's such a hot topic these days. I'm talking about just time with myself. I need that time with me. And it's not easy sometimes to get that. But I need it. I forget about it. And when he says, and then he goes on after, but for renewal it must fall back on the inward silence, that inward peace, that inward quiet we can only hear when we're by ourselves. After this he says, insofar as a man seeks to drown the silence in noisy pleasures of the senses and endeavors to live in the conflicts of outward things, just so much does he reap the experiences of pain and sorrow. So the more we run away from that solitude, the more we engage in pleasure-seeking behavior, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, attention, or we engage in distraction. He calls it conflict in here of outward things. We're in this interaction with things outside of us that take our mind away from our inner monologues, our inner self, our inner silence, actually. That's what he refers to it here. We don't allow ourselves, because of the technology today, really to be with us. We're looking at our phones, looking at social media, Googling things. We're always interacting with something. So when do we take the time to be? They call it doing nothing, or, but to just be here. It's not an easy thing to do for a lot. But the cost of never doing it, never slowing down, never making the time for this is pain and sorrow. Pain and sorrow proportional to the amount you do this. The more you run from it, the more pain and sorrow you will get. Like it opened with all pain and sorrow, it's spiritual starvation. You feed that spirit through that peace, through those that inward silence, through that solitude. That's how we get through these things. He goes on, and the last part of this is, which becoming at last intolerable, the pain and sorrow we cause ourselves by not taking the time to be with ourselves, becoming at last intolerable, drive him back to the feet of the inward comforter, to the shrine of the peaceful solitude within. We will put ourselves in so much pain that it gets to the point where we have to stop and take a look at it. Or there's some that never do, and I believe they die because of it. They die from drug overdoses, or they adrenaline junkies, or get themselves involved in situations and they're locked away. It's the pain becomes so severe, we end up taking actions that are irrational and harm us severely, or we will turn back towards the inward comforter, is what he says here, to the shrine of the peaceful solitude within, to consult ourselves and have that peace internally is where we should go. To be with ourselves only. And the last line is, it is in solitude only that a man can truly let me read that again. It is in solitude only that a man can be truly revealed to himself. If you want to get to know you, spend some time with just you. A lot of people want to find themselves through activities or travel, this and that. And you're always with yourself. You just don't stop to acknowledge it. You bring you wherever you go. There's nothing to be found. It's just something to be paid attention to, finally. When you can set aside your character defects and You can set aside your selfishness and your self-centeredness. You can stop and actually be with yourself. Your authentic self sits before all of those things. It's when our selfishness, self-centeredness gets involved, and then fear, and then we take these actions. Those are not us. We are the person that gets scared. Our personality is before the fear. And then our personality can experience fear, but then we take actions that to compensate for the fear. And then we no longer are acting as our authentic and genuine selves. We're just running on fear. So it is in solitude only that a man can be truly revealed to himself. No one can tell you who you are either. They can give you some observations, but we can deceive pretty well as humans. Some better than others. To really be known to yourself, you've got to just take that time to sit with yourself. So, ran a little bit longer today, a 16-minute one, guys, but I appreciate those who are jumping on and listening, and I really do hope it's be a benefit for you. Go ahead and head on over to our Facebook page where you can like and follow, and you'll get any updates we share about new content or quotes and the podcast for the day. So I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the reading tomorrow. And this one was a good reminder again. So until next time, thanks.